MSW Media.
So yeah, now it's clean up on aisle 45 time. And for a long while yet, it is going to be clean up on aisle 45.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 262 of Clean Up on Aisle 45. When do we stop counting, Harry?
When we stop cleaning this ish up.
It's Wednesday, January 28th, 2026. I'm Allison Gill.
What's up, AG? Harry Dunn here. All right, y'all. We got a lot to cover today, including the murder, plain and simple murder of Alex Pretti in Minneapolis over the weekend, and a hearing in federal court over a restraining order motion filed by the state of Minnesota and the city of Minneapolis.
Yeah, there was also a hearing on preservation of evidence, right? The Hennepin County District Attorney's Office and Keith Ellison, the Attorney General, filed a restraining order that was granted over the weekend and to preserve all the evidence because they don't trust that DHS is going to do it right.
Rightfully so.
And don't blame them. That hearing went off today. There's no ruling in that yet, nor is there one in the other case where they're trying to get ICE out of Minneapolis, but they might not need it. We'll see, because there's a lot of retreat happening today in Minneapolis with Bovino, and we'll go over that. Plus, we have some of the grand jury testimony in the Fulton County RICO case against Donald Trump and his 17 co-conspirators. That case has since been dismissed in its entirety, but we do have some of that grand jury testimony. And House Democrats are asking the Department of Homeland Security whether any January 6th rioters are working for or being actively recruited as federal officers. But first, before we get into anything, we have some new patrons to thank. So thank you to I Used Christmas Money for This. I guess so. And Susan Hart. And then, of course, a shout out to our Hall of Famers, Mitchell, Carol Hopkins. Please don't read this on the pod. We don't need a call out. Thanks for what you do. January 20 baby, Kate, just Kate, Alma Rennan, at Dirt Road Dems, David in Brooklyn, Sharon Tukolsky, and the future is not looking bright. Thank you to our Hall of Fame patrons and our new patrons. We couldn't do this without you. All right, so let's talk a little bit about Minneapolis, Minnesota, and the murder of Department of Veterans Affairs ICU nurse Alex Pretti. That happened on Saturday. That's happened since we've had our last episode of this podcast. It was Saturday morning in Minneapolis. We've all seen the videos, multiple angles. He was helping. He was a helper. There was a woman that had been shoved violently to the ground, assaulted by an ICE officer. He was trying to help her up when they were all just sprayed right directly in the face with a chemical agent, maybe pepper spray. And then they put him down on the ground face first, disarmed him, and then shot him in the back, and then continued to shoot him 9 more times. 10 shots total from 2 officers, Customs and Border Protection officers. And when Bovino was asked today, Harry, whether this guy's been, given desk duty, like ride a desk until we do this investigation or whatever, he said, no, he's back out. We moved him to a different city. He's back out on the street. We don't know if he's in Maine. We don't know if he's in Memphis. We don't know if he's in San Diego. But he's still out on the streets as of at least when we record this podcast that we know about. Things are
address
devolving pretty quickly for them.
Yeah, so let me address just that point real quick. I'm going to just tell you how Bush League that Greg Bovino is in that agent being back on the street. 3 years, I worked for the Capitol Police for 3 years after January 6th before I left the department. And I was still giving interviews. I would go on CNN or MSNBC, and I would do TV interviews. And one time, OPR, Office of Professional Responsibility, it's kind of like internal affairs, who investigates, any complaints that you have, like they do in a normal police department. I got called over across the street. We call it across the street when you get called in because somebody, an anonymous man in Kentucky, saw me on MSNBC and was upset about some of the things that I was saying and said that's not becoming of an officer and he should not be out there. So while that investigation was going on, I was unable to work my routine post for 3 days just for somebody complaining about what I said on MSNBC. So for the fact that these two people who have committed murder, let alone just a random, even if it was a justified shooting, to be back on the street the next day is absolutely asinine and total Bush League. And they should absolutely be stripped of their gun, their badge, and any other police powers that they have while an investigation is carried out. Oops, there won't be one.
Dude, I wasn't even a cop. I was an administrator at the Department of Veterans Affairs, and somebody had complained that I wasn't enforcing the dress code properly in the call center, because I figured it's call center. You don't have to wear your business cash. And they pulled me out of my post for 2 weeks while they did an administrative investigative board review.
Unbelievable.
Like,
unbelievable.
For that, right? Now, I mean, everything turned out to be fine, but like, I mean, they reprimanded me for not enforcing the dress code, but I wasn't carrying a gun.
Yeah.
And responsible to protect people's lives and execute the laws of the United States. I was just a call center manager.
That's insane.
For the government. So yeah, it's the fact that this guy's out there still working while a pending investigation is happening. And I wanted to talk about that too, because Harry, DHS came in and said, we're handling this investigation. They even iced out the FBI. They were like, they don't even, when Kash Patel's FBI can't help you cover shit up properly.
Yeah.
That's saying a lot, because, and I think that came from, you remember in the murder of Renee Good, one of the FBI agents locally in the Minneapolis field office opened a civil rights investigation.
Yeah, rightfully so.
Mm-hmm. And they pressured her and she had to resign.
Yeah, like you said, like if Kash Patel's FBI can't help you cover it up, like you know that you're screwed. And it's so Bush League. Normal protocol is you don't investigate your own. Like, yeah, you will eventually. So, for example, when Ashley Babbitt was shot, Metropolitan Police Department and the FBI ran concurrent investigations. And then the Capitol Police investigated. So it was 3 different entities, and the agency of the officer, his home agency, was the last person to get to investigate and go over everything. So this is clearly reeks of cover-up. It clearly tracks with what this administration does, and they cannot be trusted. And I know there's a whole other fight, and I don't want to get on this topic, whatever, but about funding DHS. We can't even ask them to be honest and transparent. They damn sure don't deserve any more funding. So
yeah, not a dime. And we'll talk about some people who are regretting their vote in the House when we get to the B block. But you're right. You can't investigate yourself, just like you can't sign your own search warrants, which is something that the DHS has told ICE that they can do. Not even executive branch of immigration judges, but ICE officers can sign their own warrants to go into your house. It's violative of the Fourth Amendment. And I'm waiting for a lawsuit against that. And in fact, the Judge Menendez, in the Minneapolis case for the restraining order to stop ICE and to get ICE out of the state for infringing on their sovereign statehood, she was like, why haven't you guys filed a lawsuit about this search warrant stuff? That's insane, right? That whistleblower who from DHS who gave Congress and whistleblower that internal memo that said, go ahead and go in with an administrative warrant signed by an ICE officer. You don't need a neutral judge, which is bizarre because when DHS took over the investigation of the murder of Alex Pretti, they blocked the Bureau of Criminal Apprehensions, the local Minnesota investigators, and local Minneapolis PD from going into the crime scene, and they had a judicial warrant to go in.
That's one of the things. I saw him on the Sunday shows. Their chief, I believe he was on with Margaret Brennan. And
Brennan, Bartiromo, Dana Bash.
Yeah. But this particular interview, he was responding to Donald Trump blaming the local police department for failing to say that the suspect, I'm using suspect in air quotes because he's a victim of a murder, not a suspect, Alex Pretti. That Donald Trump was mad that the local police department didn't disclose the fact that he had two, they call them cartridges, magazines, for his guns. And the police chief, he pushed back. He said, how the hell am I supposed to know when y'all wouldn't even let us in the crime scene? Y'all are not sharing any information with us. The information we're getting is coming from social media and eyewitness accounts because we're damn sure not allowed to be even in processing the scene, which is completely unheard of. And it's completely reeks of total cover up and sweeping under the rug.
Yeah, especially since this guy was whisked away to another city and put back out on the street wearing a mask and carrying a gun. So we also know that right after the video circulated, we started seeing the video of the murder, that Bovino got up in a press conference and said something to the effect of he was there to do maximum damage. He came at ICE officers. He had a 9mm handgun. And he was there to do maximum damage and massacre law enforcement. Nothing in the video gives any indication that dude was directing traffic and then trying to help a lady up off the ground. And then they tried to pivot to, well, we were there to arrest someone in an operation and these people were obstructing us, like forcibly obstructing us. They were just filming. And yeah, so
the dude didn't even make eye contact. He didn't even make eye contact with them. His focus, and you could tell that he was a nurse and used to caring for people because he went straight to the woman who was brutally assaulted and shoved to the ground. He went right to her and attempted to help them up. And they bum rushed him from behind and started spraying all kinds of pepper spray. And then they beat him while he was on the ground and then executed him.
Yeah, some folks thought he was pistol whipped, but that agent was actually hitting him with an empty gas canister. Now, then Noam lied, right? Christy Noam lied to the press. And then Stephen Miller put out a tweet saying that this guy is participating in domestic terrorism, which I think is a different sort of legal worming around from saying that she's a domestic terrorist. By saying he was participating in domestic terrorism, which is still, I mean, a lie is a lie. But, I think that's for different sort of legal Insurrection Act reasons that might, come to light later.
I have to look up the definition, AG, of domestic terrorism because of my understanding, it's instilling fear in the community. That's exactly what ICE is doing. Alex Pretti didn't instill fear in anybody. That's what ICE is doing. So,
yeah. And so today I was participating in a hearing. There's two hearings that I'm going to talk about here. First was the weekend temporary restraining order to preserve the evidence, right? We sort of touched on that. There was no ruling given, but there was a hearing about it. And of course, DHS was like, well, Minnesota can just file a Freedom of Information Act request for all the evidence once we're done with it. It was just the dumbest thing I've heard. But he hasn't ruled yet. That judge hasn't ruled yet. But there was another hearing I listened to with Judge Menendez. And this is a lawsuit going back to December where Minnesota and Minneapolis filed a lawsuit saying, hey, you're infringing on our sovereignty as a state and our ability to be a state and provide education.
Is this similar what California did? Is that similar?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
But that was National Guard deployment.
Gotcha.
So
and
it's a little
ICE.
different because these are Trump didn't have authority to deploy the National Guard. He does have authority to deploy ICE.
Gotcha. Okay.
So in this hearing, it seemed like the judge was saying, look, they have supremacy. The feds can go and do the laws that they need to do and carry out the immigration stuff that the law enforcement that they need to carry out. But because Pam Bondi wrote that letter, Pam Bondi wrote like a ransom note saying, if you do these 3 things, we'll pull ICE out. Because she wrote that, the judge was like, well, this sheds a whole new kind of light on the reason that you're there. This sounds like coercion. This sounds like a quid pro quo. She actually used those words. So now explain to me how it's not violative of the 10th Amendment or the, anti-commandeering doctrine, which is part of the 10th Amendment. And they had a little bit of a hard time. The government had a little bit of a hard time explaining that and Trump's post on Truth Social that said, Minnesota, it's retribution day or whatever. Your retribution is here. She's like, what is that? How's that making sure that the laws of the federal government are carried out properly? So she didn't rule either. But it's going to be interesting to see what that judge has to say.
Yeah, when are they expecting that back? Because, to me, and forgive me, I'm a common sense guy. If it walks like a duck, talks like a duck, it's a duck. And like you said, Pam Bondi's letter says, hey, we'll do this. And wasn't it related to voter rolls and registrations?
Medicaid, SNAP, voter rolls. And
had nothing to
get rid of all of your sanctuary city policies.
Which had nothing to do. That's insane. Yeah, because that doesn't sound like ICE's operation. So they're just going to keep terrorizing people until they get that? Like, that's insane.
Yeah, that's coercive, right? That's not carrying out the laws of the United States. So we'll see what she has to say. It's still an uphill battle because the federal government has a lot of leeway to do this, especially since an old Supreme Court decision, I think under Clinton era, allowed that kind of thing to happen. You really have to give a lot of deference to the federal government when it comes to immigration specifically. All right. Well, all of this, at the backdrop of all of this, the murder, execution of Alex Pretti and these lawsuits, my friend Adam Klossfeld and I are like, well, the people of Minnesota might be able to actually push ICE out faster than the courts could.
Yeah.
It still wouldn't change the need for the court to decide on the question of whether or not this is, violative of the 10th Amendment. But all of these other exigent circumstances that we're seeing happen today on Monday as we record this may alleviate a lot of the problems because of the backlash is so swift. And we're going to talk about that, but we have to take a quick break. So stick around. We'll be right back.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Okay, it seems the response to Alex Pretti's murder is causing Republicans and even the Trump administration to reconsider Operation Metro Surge in Minneapolis.
Yeah, man, the dominoes are falling fast and hard today on Monday. They started kind of over the weekend with the TRO and that we talked about in the A block, but so here's just some of the things that I noticed today. First of all, Tom Suozzi, he's a moderate Democrat in New York. He actually regrets, he put out a statement saying you remember how 7 Democrats voted to fund the DHS funding package in the House? He actually put out a statement saying he regretted that vote. Actually, let's see if I have it.
Yeah, Suozzi is out of New York. Suozzi used to be, he replaced George Santos.
Yeah, I think so.
So I don't know if it's a purple district or whatever, but
it's pretty purple.
Yeah.
But it says here, I failed to view the DHS funding vote as a referendum on the illegal and immoral conduct of ICE in Minneapolis. So he's basically saying, I didn't know what I was doing when I voted for funding it. He said, I hear the anger from my constituents. I take responsibility. I have long been critical of ICE's unlawful behavior. Then why did you vote? Maybe because ICE can't be defunded because it's super funded through 2028 from the Big Beautiful Bill. And even if they did block this bill, ICE would still be fully funded at double its current capacity through the end of Trump's term. But I have long been critical of ICE's unlawful behavior. I must do a better job demonstrating that. The senseless and tragic murder of Alex Pretti underscores what happens when untrained federal agents operate without accountability. Trump must immediately end Metro Surge and ICE's occupation of Minneapolis, etc. And I wanted to ask you about this, because I've heard from a lot of people critical of what's going on in Minneapolis. Not just that, they're being horrible, murderous a-holes, but that they seem very untrained. And you and I talked a little bit about this with the Jonathan Ross murder of Renee Good when he walked around the front of the vehicle and And he's been there for 10 years. And apparently this guy who one of the agents, there were like 7 of them, but the one who shot him in the back multiple times has been there for like 8 years, at least according to Greg Bovino. But there just seems like there's a lot of untrained individuals in ICE and Customs and Border Protection. Have you noticed that, like significant amounts of?
Well, yeah, just watching the videos that we've seen, and this is without any records. This goes back to why I don't believe that just training officers, whether it be ICE, border patrol, or just random police officers on your community police officers. Why I don't believe it's just training, because like you referenced, Renee Nicole Good's murderer, he was on the job 10 years. This guy was 8 years. So they are not new to this, but it just sets a mindset that they're not there to serve the public, their country, the community. They are there to carry out an agenda. So that's why I don't believe that this falls on training, which is why I am 100% against funding any DHS, because this ain't about training. Right. This ain't about training. It's about a mindset. And now I'm sure that there were a lot of trained officers on that scene. I'm sure of it. But we also see the videos of individuals chasing down people walking away with their hands up, pepper spraying people who are just in the way. They're just emptying the canister of pepper spray in their face. And this isn't about training. They have been given blanket cover to operate in a manner that they want to do, with zero consequences, zero accountability, zero responsibility. They can do whatever they want as long as they're doing Donald Trump's bidding. And that is what it comes down to. This ain't about training. Now, I get it, AG, because yes, there are a lot of untrained people out there too. And yeah, when you have the training, when you know better, you should do better. But they know better and they're not doing better, which just shows down to the type of officer that is out there.
Well, it seems like with these moderates and moderate Dems and Republicans saying, they're untrained, they, need the new recruits or whatever. It seems like that is almost a cop-out. It's like they don't want to admit the murderous, bigoted core of some of these people who have been there for a decade. It's not training.
It's not training.
It can't be reformed.
If that's another thing, one of my questions, where is the Fraternal Order of Police? Why aren't they making any statements? Oh, I know why. Because they endorsed this. They endorsed Donald Trump. They wanted this. But their silence is deafening. And like nobody's even looking for them because we know what type of people they are. I am. Like, is the FOP, the Fraternal Order of Police, okay with the Minnesota State Police being shut out of an investigation? Are y'all okay with that? Why aren't you all speaking out? This is not okay. And you know what? Investigate it. And even if they say, which they're going to, that the officer was justified, blah, 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 they'll create facts. But they're not even doing that. They're delaying or just total washing away any opportunities for a fair and independent investigation. Because we all saw it. The entire world saw it, and we saw it as a murder. There are people, right, that have been saying it on the right that are calling what we saw on Saturday.
And not only are they calling it, a lot of these people on the right are calling it murder, but a lot of them are calling for an independent investigation. Mike Pence today on Monday came forward and said there needs to be an independent investigation into this.
Good old Pence.
Senator John Curtis of Utah, Republican, criticized Noam and also called for an independent investigation. Tim Pool, the little Russian-funded beanie-wearing, somehow has got a White House press credential.
Wow.
Podcaster is even like, this is murder. Sorry, Trump, but that, I saw the tapes. Like, you can't tell me what I didn't see. Greg Abbott today said ICE needs to change its ways. Now, he was a little more like, this is the guy who put razor wire on buoys in the Rio Grande, cut mothers and children trying to swim to safety. He's even like, this ICE is a little out of control. He said you should recalibrate. I don't think you can recalibrate. But for Greg Abbott to say that things need to change is notable, at least. But get this. A little bit later, Monday afternoon, after all this came crashing down, Tim Walz got on the phone with Trump, and then they did a readout of the call between Walz and Trump. And apparently Trump was receptive to a lot of what Governor Walz was saying. And shortly after that, CNN put out a story saying Bovino is now leaving. Bovino is leaving Minnesota. Also, a right-wing Washington Examiner reporter who does actually have good sources at DHS said all Customs and Border Protection officers are going to be leaving Minneapolis. So I don't know if this is the end of Operation Metro Surge. I'm sure there's still more work to do, but I think this is a huge victory for peaceful protest and the people of Minnesota and everybody in the country who's standing strong in solidarity with Minnesota, including the NBA.
Shout out to Steph Curry and Steve Kerr and Minnesota players. They good for them.
The Timberwolves, right? Like that pushback, it works. That stuff works, and so I hesitate to congratulate Minnesotans on this.
Shouldn't have come to this
potential end of Operation Metro Surge, because I'm sure there's still going to be issues. But man, it fell apart. It all fell apart, but it shouldn't have taken the murder of Alex Pretti to do so.
Well, not even that, HE. Don't feel comfortable betting my house that Alex Pretti is the last person that this is going to happen to. He's just the next person. And I know that sounds dark and non-optimistic, but nothing in this administration even none of their statements. We are in dark times, and a white woman and a white man got murdered. I mean, nobody is safe in this administration, and they're deporting Americans. They're snatching everybody off the street. And they're hiding under the guise of you're impeding law enforcement operations. Give me a effing break.
I think a lot of the things that made a lot of Republicans sort of kind of cock their head and look at this a little sideways was when Bovino talked about this guy's 9mm handgun and Kash Patel saying you can't carry a gun to a protest. I think a lot of 2A people, the folks I call homosexuals, the people who are really into their guns.
Yeah.
We're like, wait a minute, the NRA put out a statement.
Yes, when you lost the NRA, you're...
Hang on a second. And so, hey, man, if it takes Second Amendment absolutists to start, to help sort of pull more people back from what's going on, great. But that, it shouldn't come to that. Like if he hadn't had a gun on him, then it's okay, because that's what happened to Renee Good. Right.
Yeah. You're allowed to have a gun unless you're a Democrat, right? Or a liberal. Well, we don't even know what Alex Pretti's policies were. We don't know. He was there to protect people and film.
Right. Yeah. But Mara Martinez in Chicago was shot.
Oh, yes.
5 times. And she had a gun in her purse. And DHS, Tricia McLaughlin, she brandished a semi-automatic firearm at agents. She didn't. She never took it out of her purse. It's the same old story. I fired in self-defense. You shot him in the back after you disarmed him. It's all plain as day. And it doesn't seem to be working here. There's just too much backlash, I think, for this administration. Now, administration officials are upset with Bovino and Noem. They said Bovino made matters worse by saying Alex Pretti was going to do maximum damage and massacre law enforcement. And so there's a lot of pressure now, and we need to keep it up. We can't let up because we still don't have the evidence. Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison and Hennepin County District Attorney Moriarty still don't have the evidence they need to conduct their investigation. So we can't let up. We can't let up until
this guy's out the White House.
Till we get a new Congress and we get somebody also the White House. But it's I'm glad to see this. I'm glad to see this exodus and massive amounts of pushback.
But also, AG, in Noem's and Bovino's defense, it's hard to know for them how much lying you can do before you're looked upon by the administration. Like, wait, that's too much lying. Like we lie around here, but That's a little too much. Like,
what happens is it makes Trump look bad.
Exactly.
It makes Trump look bad. If his poll numbers go down, then you're not lying properly.
Yeah, correct. But you need to lie. If they were lying and just blaming Democrats, I think they'd be safe. But
yeah, and also, I brings me a little bit of peace to think about how many lives Minnesotans have saved through their observing ICE and their peaceful protests and everything that they've done there on the ground to push back against it's tyranny. Let's call it what it is.
Yeah, completely agree. I don't know about you. Well, knowing how entrenched you are in the news, AG, I'm almost certain that you were knowing these videos and getting information as soon as it happened. I saw it and I didn't want to watch it. I didn't want to. And it took about 2 hours from when I had it to watch before I actually watched it. And the only thing I could come up with, this lawless administration, and just how proud I was and the thoughts and prayers. And I don't say that in a funny manner that I had for the people of Minnesota and Minneapolis, because like you said, AG, they have saved without even their knowing countless lives. I'm sure of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. All right, we'll keep an eye on all this. We do also have information on House Democrats asking the Department of Homeland Security whether they're actively recruiting insurrectionists or even employing them. And we'll cover that story after this break. Stick around. We'll be right back. All right, everybody, welcome back. Our next story comes from our good friend, Scott MacFarlane, and some of his pals over at CBS. Nearly 1 year after the mass pardon of more than 1,500 Trump-supporting Capitol riot defendants, members of a House committee are investigating whether any of the pardoned rioters are now working for the Trump administration in the fast-growing Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency. In a 3-page letter sent a week ago Monday to Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem and Attorney General Pam Bondi, and obtained by CBS News, the ranking member of the House Judiciary Committee has requested all, quote, records, documents, memos, and internal communications regarding the solicitation and hiring of anyone charged or investigated for actions in connection to the January 6, 2021 attack on the Capitol.
That's good to hear. The committee's Democrats also said it remains unclear how many January 6 defendants have been invited to join the ranks of this administration, including among the Mass Department of Homeland Security agents and officers. It's also not clear if ICE has hired any January 6 defendants, but the agency is engaging in a rapid hiring spree funded by a $75 billion funding boost passed by Congress last year that could allow ICE to add thousands of agents. That's scary.
Yeah.
Scarier.
Yeah, and they're sending them to the field office without any LEO training, either because of an AI error. We covered that over on the Daily Beans.
Mm-hmm.
But the Democrats' letter noted that other pardoned riot defendants or members of the crowd on Capitol grounds have already joined the administration. Jamie Raskin, as we know, Maryland Democrat, up there where you live, and the Judiciary Panel's ranking member said it's possible riot defendants would go unrecognized while serving as immigration agents. He said, unique among all law enforcement agencies and all branches of the armed services, ICE agents conceal their identities, wearing masks and removing names from their uniforms. That's what he wrote. Raskin, who previously served, by the way, on the January 6th Select Committee.
Yeah, Raskin's inquiry said, who's hiding behind these masks? I tried to do my Jamie Raskin impression. Who's hiding behind these masks? How many of them were among the violent rioters who attacked the Capitol on January 6th and were convicted of their offenses? In a statement to CBS News, Assistant Secretary of Homeland Security Tricia McLaughlin called the letter reckless, disgusting, and unhinged.
No, that's you, girl. That's you.
Like, what?
Girl. Tricia McLaughlin lies more than Caroline Leavitt.
Yes, she does.
They rammed them with the vehicle, and they were trying to push their car out of the snow, and they just rammed them. They were just like, oh my God, stop with your lies. By the way, the article goes on to say, Harry Dunn, a former U.S. Capitol Police officer who helped repel the rioting mob at the Capitol, told CBS News, quote, given the pardons and appointments of people in this administration, lawlessness is not frowned upon, but rewarded. You want to expand on that quote?
That sounds like something I would say. No, I mean, like I said in the last block, AG, about Bovino and Nome. Like, you lie and Donald Trump likes it as long as it makes him look good. But lawlessness, you reward for making Donald Trump, a lawless man, look good. You're rewarded for it. So if Donald Trump, just like the Proud Boys, stand back and stand by. Like,
yeah,
I got use for you. Hang on, I can use you somewhere. So they're rewarded, and it's not frowned upon.
No, of course not. I mean, that it's, you summed it up perfectly well. Like we always say, it's a feature, not a bug. It's why we can't retrain or train ICE agents.
Yeah.
They're corrupt to their core. ICE cannot be reformed. It just can't be reformed at this point.
Yeah, like how do you get rid of an ideology? Not by training your way out of it.
Right. In fact, Colorado Sun, somebody just sent me this. Racist Ace of Spades cards left behind following ICE arrests in Eagle County, Colorado. A Colorado nonprofit that helps immigrants in mountain towns says several men were detained by ICE during a fake traffic stop this week in Eagle County. Family and friends who went to retrieve the vehicles left abandoned on the highway found these cards, which were printed with contact information for ICE and the detention center in Aurora. Ace of Spades cards, which have been used by white supremacist groups as a racist symbol and were called death cards by some during the Vietnam War, were found in at least 2 vehicles after those vehicles were pulled over by ICE agents. And that's according to one of the nonprofits based in Glenwood Springs. So they're leaving racist calling cards. ICE.
Wow.
This can't be reformed, man.
They're not hiding it. They're not hiding it because they've been given blanket cover by the President of the United States and obviously Stephen Miller and Kristi Noem to just do whatever you want.
Yeah. Plus you got the guy after murdering Renee Good saying fucking bitch. And then you've got one of the Customs and Border Protection agents clapping after Alex Pretti was executed.
They would say something about hot mic or something. Was there a hot mic where somebody said something about a video game?
They said, yeah, oh man, this is like Call of Duty, man. That's the third thing I was going to say. You took the words right out of my mouth.
My bad.
No, you and I are on the exact same wavelength. So cameras out, keep them out, keep them up, Yeah. It's these videos that make the difference. It's Minnesotans pushing back. It's people on the ground as citizens peacefully protesting and pushing back. So peaceful protests work, my friends.
It does. But stay safe. God, stay safe because they clearly don't care. Like, don't get up in their faces, even though you have the right to. You have the right to put the camera. Now, obviously, you're Pete and sure. Stay as far away as you can while still capturing what they're doing. These cameras nowadays got great zooms. And I tell you what, use that zoom feature. It's not worth your life. It's not worth your life. That's a good point.
Yeah. And, we've got these ICE officers. Now I've seen 2 videos where ICE officers have said, haven't you learned your lesson? Didn't yesterday teach you anything when talking about either Renee Good or Alex Pretti? And they're like, learned what? That you can just execute me if I film you? I mean, my God. All right.
Ridiculous.
Can't reform that. All right, everybody. We've got another story to tell you about some of the behind the scenes grand jury testimony in the RICO case in Fulton County. Again, that case is dead. It's been dismissed. But I think this testimony is interesting. We'll go over it after this break. Stick around. We'll be right back.
All right, everybody. Welcome back. All right. We got one more story. Thanks for hanging in there with us. And this is from the Times. Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina found President Trump's claims of election fraud in 2020 unnerving. Governor Brian Kemp of Georgia described Mr. Trump's efforts to get his state lawmakers to intervene a fruitless exercise. David Ralston, a former Speaker of the Georgia House of Representatives, called the plan to create slates of fake pro-Trump electors in states he had lost the craziest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, I just want to remind everyone the same thing Jack Smith reminded the Republicans on the House Judiciary panel. Those are all Republican Trump supporters.
Yeah.
Okay.
They voted for him. They wanted him.
Mm-hmm. Now, transcripts of secret grand jury testimony from the Georgia election interference case against Trump and his allies obtained last week by the New York Times show just how alarmed and exasperated a number of senior Republicans felt about the president's efforts to overturn a presidential election. The testimony given back in 2022 is emerging at a time when Mr. Trump is again raising complaints about his 2020 defeat and voicing regret that he did not order the National Guard to seize voting machines after the election. He has also said he wanted to lead a movement to ban voting machines and mail-in ballots in time for the midterm elections this year.
Senator Graham, the veteran South Carolina lawmaker, recently called Mr. Trump the greatest president of all time. But his 2022 testimony came at a time where Mr. Trump's political future was uncertain at that time. I knew there was something there. Mr. Graham expressed exasperation over the president's baseless 2020 election fraud claims, telling the grand jurors, "I have told him more times than we can count that he fell short, and that if you told him Martians came and stole the vote, he'd be inclined to believe it." Well, that tracks.
Lindsey Graham. That's interesting. He's the greatest thing, but when his political future was uncertain, he wasn't really backing him anymore. But now that he's back, he's totally backing him again. That's why they call him the Lindsey fish, right? He's there to bottom feeder on the most powerful person in the room.
Bottom feeder Lindsey.
He called the Trump campaign's plan to enlist fake electors in swing states where the president had lost the election weird. I don't know what to tell you. It's just weird. He attributed Trump's 2020 defeat in Arizona not to fraud, as Trump and his allies claim, but rather to Trump's bashing of the state's longtime Senator John McCain. You know shit. And he said that weakness with suburban voters had hurt Trump in a number of swing states. Quote, "The McCain effect in Arizona was real." That's what Lindsey Graham told the grand jury. And when you look through the suburbs in the states in question, you sort of have a common pattern where Trump ran behind other Republicans. I was trying to convey that to him. I'm sorry he lost, but he lost it. That's what Graham said.
Yeah, the Times obtained the transcripts after the judge who presided over the Georgia case, Scott McAfee of Fulton County Superior Court, lifted an order that had barred defense lawyers from disclosing much of the material they had received as part of the discovery process. Another Georgia Republican who testified before the special grand jury was Chris Carr. Chris Carr is the state attorney general who is running for governor this year. Mr. Carr said in his testimony that in a call with Mr. Trump after the 2020 election, the president urged him to stop lobbying other state attorney generals against joining a lawsuit filed by Ken Paxton, the attorney general of Texas.
Yep. Mr. Carr testified he believed the Texas lawsuit to be legally, factually, and constitutionally wrong. But he told the president that he was not reaching out to his fellow attorneys general about the matter. In his testimony, he told Trump, "We're just not seeing the things that you're seeing."
Sorry, dude. I just don't see what you see.
That's one way to put it.
Yeah, that's one way to put it. Lindsey Graham was among those who were recommended for indictment, but were not ultimately charged in the case. In his testimony, he described the president as a friend with whom he played golf with fairly regularly. A prosecutor asked him whether the president cheated at golf. "Some people say you might outdrive him, but you're not going to outdrive his caddy," Mr. Graham replied. "It is what it is."
That's funny that the prosecutors asked him if he cheated at golf, and he does. He's like, "Yep." Mm-hmm.
That's funny.
You might not be able to outdrive him, but you're not going to outdrive his caddy. Ding dong dong. Man, that caddy should write a book.
He absolutely should.
You know what I'm talking about?
I agree.
Trump cheats at golf. That's all you got to call it. A tale from Trump's caddy. That's it.
Yeah, that sounds right.
You'd sell the shit out of that book.
It would definitely sell.
just no, you don't even have to be clever about anything. Just talk about all the time Trump cheats at golf.
Yeah. I mean, people will buy it. Maybe you
talk about how he drives on the green like an asshole.
Oh, he's such a scumbag, man. Write the book, caddy.
Do it. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to Clean Up on Aisle 45. Once again, all our love to Minnesota and Minneapolis.
Absolutely. Stay strong, yo.
The flags here at San Diego County, our supervisor, my favorite supervisor, Lawson Reamer, has ordered all of our flags at half-mast through most of this week in solidarity. I say half-mast because I was in the Navy. It's just a thing, half-staff, however you want to live. They're lowering our flags here. It's all of San Diego County, which is a big damn county.
It is. Aren't we? We're seeing this in Maine too, aren't we? The clashes are escalating in Maine. So everybody around the country, stay safe, y'all.
Yeah. And I look forward to Minnesotans sharing their best practices with other cities, people in other cities, about how to resist this and get Bovino to leave. I love it.
Yeah.
All right. We'll keep an eye on this for you. We'll have a bonus episode. We've got a happy hour this Thursday. And this is kind of going to be a happy hour where it's more like we just sort of want to be there for everybody. This is a really, really hard week. And I feel like you need some comforting voices. So it's going to be me and Harry Dunn. Dana Goldberg's going to be there. I think Andy McCabe might be able to go. And our friend Joshua Aaron, the developer of the Ice Block app, is going to drop in. I'll be there. And it's just kind of going to be it's okay to not be okay
moment. Mm-hmm. I'm definitely coming strong for happy hour because it's some heavy shiggity. Shiggity-ish.
We try not to swear on the public episode.
Try not to. Yeah.
But watching all of these dominoes fall gives me a little bit of hope. So
yeah.
All right, everybody. We will see you next week. Thanks so much for listening to Clean Up on Aisle 45. I'm Allison Gill.
Harry Dunn. Thanks, y'all.
Clean Up on Aisle 45 is written, researched, and produced by Allison Gill, with editing by Molly Hockey. Our art and logo design are by Joelle Reeder and Moxie Design Studios, and our music is composed and performed by Adam Orr. Clean Up on Aisle 45 is a proud member of the MSW Media Network, a collection of creator-owned podcasts dedicated to news, politics, and justice. For more information, visit mswmedia.com. MSW Media.